Revenge films.
My name is Jonathan. I'm a pastry chef, and for many years, I was working at a well-known pastry shop. However, my dreams came true, and I was able to open up my own pastry shop. And finally, that pastry shop was about to open. I did it! I finally did it! This is my own shop! I'm so happy! I can't wait! I worked for about 5 years at the previous pastry shop, and my chef mentor from that pastry shop was really encouraging. He supported me and said, "With your skills, I know that you can definitely succeed. You got this, Jonathan!" I was finally able to open the shop of my dreams with my new staff and the concept that I came up with. And I truly couldn't be happier that all of this was coming true. For my new pastry shop, a lot of the regular customers from my previous shop posted about it on their social media, so I was lucky to have many customers from the very first day of opening. It was a small pastry shop, but I was really careful with my hiring process. I placed a lot of emphasis on polite customer service and made sure that every customer left feeling satisfied. When customers would come back a couple of days later, they would say things to me like,
"The cake that I bought the other day was so delicious that I came here to make a reservation for my grandson's birthday cake coming up."
"Thank you very much." And most of the customers became repeat customers, and quickly after opening, things were going really well. However, around the time that 1 month had passed since the opening, one of my employees suddenly said this to me. "Mr. Jonathan, look outside! It's that car again, and it's parked there again!" What, really? Are you serious? About half a month ago, we started to notice that there was a certain car that started parking in our parking lot without permission and then disappearing. And they weren't a customer either. Because our cake shop was really small and only a limited number of customers could come in at a time, we also had very limited parking spaces. That's why it was really troublesome that this car was taking up one whole parking space for multiple hours, and on the bad days, they would park for the entire day there. I wanted to see the driver, so I tried to have a word with her. "Excuse me, we would really like for customers that are not here to come into our pastry shop, so please, refrain from parking in our parking lot."
Excuse me? Okay, yeah, whatever. I'm about to leave anyway, so what's the big deal?
And they jumped into the car and drove off. I learned that the driver was a really flashy woman in her 20s, and she had a bad attitude as well. When it came to customers that were stopping by our pastry shop, generally they were in and out, and so the cars would leave quickly, and the turnover was really fast. Because it happened repeatedly, I did go to the police one time, and I spoke to her about it once again. But when that happened, she came into the shop and actually bought a cake, so I couldn't say anything.
There you go. I bought a cake and now I'm your customer, so I guess you can't complain about it.
And then she left her car there and walked away. When she comes back, I'll tell her again. That's what I thought, but in the end, she didn't return during open hours for the shop. When I got to work the next morning, the car was gone by then. There was no regularity to it, and I could never tell when she was going to come and park her car there, so I wasn't able to come up with much of a strategy against it. But it was still taking up space. That's why I explained the situation to our regular customers, and I decided to put up rubber poles in the space that woman was always parking her car in. Once the shop was closed, overnight, I put up other blocks on the other parking spaces. However, perhaps I must have irritated her, because the next morning when I got to work, all of the poles were destroyed! "This is terrible, Mr. Jonathan. Unacceptable!"
She's the one that's parking here without permission. I can't believe she would even destroy our property like this.
However, the woman was refusing to listen to anything that myself or my employees were saying to her, and we were becoming more and more troubled by her actions. And then, the three of us had to go to the construction site where we borrowed the rubber poles and deeply apologize that their property was destroyed. I'm terribly sorry about what happened to the poles that we borrowed from you. We'll pay the cost of damages. So how much were they?
"Oh, these are made out of rubber. Nothing at all. Don't worry about it. More importantly, judging by the look on your face, looks like you're having quite the tough time."
Yes, that's right. I know I explained the situation to you, but no matter how many times I warn her, even when I call the police, she refuses to stop. Once we go inside of the shop in the kitchen, it's not possible for us to keep checking the parking lot constantly, and she must know that because she aims for that moment, and she parks her car there.
"I see. That's tough. So what's that car doing right now at this moment?
She parked it there once again, and it's still there at the shop.
Alright then. Good. Why don't I give that woman a taste of karma?
As he said that, the manager of the construction company turned around and gathered up a number of his young employees. He told me that he was bringing his best men to my shop, and then, after they prepared a number of things, we were able to set up some new and improved rubber poles on the parking space overnight. The next morning, as soon as I arrived to the shop, the woman came storming over to me, her face bright red, looking like a monster.
Hey, you! What on earth is going on here? What have you done?
What are you talking about?
Excuse me? Can you not see with your eyes the situation with my beautiful car? When I tried to take my car out, it got dented and scratched and ruined. Why the hell are those rubber poles so hard? What's going on?
Oh, you mean those poles? They're actually made of metal on the inside. We just painted them on the outside. But also, I don't remember ever telling you that those were rubber poles to begin with. So what have I done wrong here?
When they're painted that color, anybody on Earth would think that those are rubber poles. Anyway, you need to pay for the cost of damages to my car.
What? But why would I need to do that? You're the one who parked here without any permission, isn't that right? So you did this to yourself, didn't you?
Are you kidding me? This is my husband's car, and he's about to come home from his business trip today. So I need to put it back, and I can't do that when it looks like this.
Oh, so you have a husband, is that right? In that case, I'm going to call the police, and I'm going to ask your husband to come here instead.
What? No, wait a minute. Please don't do that. Stop it.
You can tell me to stop, but it's too late, and plus, I've spoken to you multiple times, over and over again, to please not park here, haven't I?
That might be true, but my husband can't see this.
The woman was a completely different person from her attitude before. She had turned completely pale and was begging me not to call her husband. But of course, there's no way that I was going to answer to that at this point. I immediately called the police, and I asked them to get the woman's husband's contact information out of her. As soon as he got back from his business trip, it was arranged that he would come straight from the train station to my pastry shop. When the husband arrived, I explained everything to him from the very beginning of the situation until now. When I did, the husband turned immediately to the woman and said,
Karen, where the hell were you going to leave the car overnight?
I was just staying over at a friend's house. That's all.
The woman was sweating at this point, but when the husband looked inside of the car, it was over for her. There was an overnight bag, and inside of it was contraceptives as well.
You were having an affair, weren't you? While I was away on the business trip!
No, that's not it. I was just going over to my friend's house. That's all. There must have been some little mistake, so I don't know why that's in there.
She was trying to come up with any excuses that she could, but of course, there was no way that that was going to fly. As it turns out, this woman was having an affair with a man that lived near my pastry shop, and while her husband was on a business trip, and her lover's wife was back home with her parents preparing to give birth, she was staying over at his place. However, if she parked her car at his house, because it was a bright red car and quite flashy, she was afraid that it might bring too much attention and she might get caught. So when she was going over to his place, she was finding parking that she found on the street. However, when my shop opened up nearby, she said that she didn't have to worry about getting a parking ticket there, and that's why she started using my parking space.
I am terribly sorry about this. I'm going to ensure that nothing like this ever happens again. So if you wouldn't mind, can you please allow me to get my car?
The husband was very polite in apologizing and asking me to help remove his car. When I heard that, I called the manager of the construction site once again, and with just one phone call, the metal rubber poles were taken down and the car was able to drive out. This whole time, the woman was crying and apologizing to her husband, but the husband didn't seem like he had any intention whatsoever of entertaining her, and the two of them disappeared. I later found out from one of my employees what happened after that.
That woman who was parking in the car there, I heard that she got a divorce. It turns out that she lives in the same apartment building as one of my friends, and she told me that they got into a huge fight that all of the neighbors could hear.
Oh, really? But you know, I never could have imagined that she was using the parking space to have an affair.
Apparently, her husband works for a top-class company, and he was often on business trips both overseas and within the country. And plus, since they didn't have any kids yet, it looks like the woman was having as many affairs as she wanted with her husband's money. But after this incident, her husband found out about the affairs. And not only did he divorce her, but he collected a settlement fee from her. And apparently, she was sued by the wife of her lover as well for a pretty high settlement fee. So apparently, she's riddled in debt now, with nowhere to go and having to somehow pay all of that back.
You really know all the details. You're like one of the old ladies that gossip around town.
That's rude. I'm still in my 20s. I just like to gossip, but who doesn't? But you know, that apartment that my friend lives in is a really nice building. But of course, she was kicked out of that immediately. And I heard that these days she's having to work multiple part-time jobs from morning until night. And she had to move into an old rundown apartment by herself. But she did this to herself, so I don't feel sorry for her.
Well, regardless of what happened, I'm glad we figured it out and that we were able to close the case on this parking lot incident. Seriously, we were saved by the manager of that construction company, so I'm thinking about taking a pastry set over to his company to thank him. What do you guys think?
Oh, that manager. Apparently he loves pastry so much that he's called Mr. Pastry at work. Even though he looks a little bit scary.
Seriously, he doesn't look like he would like sweets that much, but I think he'd be pretty happy if we did that.
Alright, let's do it! We're going to make the best pastry set and take it over to him and thank him together. And so, the three of us worked together to make an extra set of sweets in between our regular work. We included cream puffs, different tarts, apple pies, jellies, and puddings, and created a pastry set full of variety. When we brought that over to his company, the manager's eyes sparkled and he was thrilled. At first, I'd finally opened up the shop of my dreams, and customers were finally starting to come in. And so, I was really bothered by this woman who was getting in the way of that. But I'm really glad that this case was closed. I hope I never have to deal with a customer like that ever again.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.